What good folks, it's Dark19 and welcome back to another What If, and I believe this is What If Naruto was Sephiroth Reincarnation Finale, so like, comment, subscribe and share, but besides all that, enjoy the video. Chapter 9 Die Hard. The ship Haku had taken Sephiroth's unconscious body upon saving him from the group of Konoha shinobi was actually a cruise liner, which had only recently after Gato's death been allowed to set a course near Wave Country, and certain places there a place to dock safely without the threat of goons harassing everyone on board the ship. The ship itself was actually headed to Fire Country on the southeastern dockyards approximately 20 miles away from the Leaf Village. Unfortunately, for both the ship and its captain, there was a storm swirling around them, causing a reduction in speed to prevent possible accidents from possible rocks along a reef to other ships sailing from a different direction headed their way. What the captain didn't know was this storm was not a natural one, as it was being caused by the intense anger being generated by a single source on the cruise line, and the name of that entity causing was Namikaze Sephiroth. Before the one-winged angel of death, a frightened Haku cowered under his rage-filled eyes at what she had done to him a second time by being close to his body, and ignored the teary eyes of the female ice user. Do you know what you've done? What your action did to those that defended me? By not being there with them, our allies were taken away back to the Leaf, and will tortured just for helping me this far before being executed, said Sephiroth. His voice was cold, cruel sounding, and the chakra he created had warped the metal around him. In front of him, Haku had her face down submissively, but without the mask she usually had on, so Sephiroth could see the repentant servant, and hoped he understood it was the only way for him to survive. Sephiroth-sama, I am sorry for putting you in that state, but your health, said Haku, but the increased output of Sephiroth's power silenced her, and slowly looked into the eyes of the enraged being standing barely 10 feet from her. I do not care about my health, Haku. What I do care about is my mission, and I am now finding your presence being disruptive to my said mission, said Sephiroth, seeing Haku's eyes widen in shock and in fear at the sudden premonition-laced words. Sephiroth-sama? Said Haku worriedly, hoping he wasn't about to do what she did not wish for him to do. Leave me, Haku. Leave my sight. Now, said Sephiroth, seeing Haku shake her head, and tears ran freely from those eyes that begged for his mercy. Sephiroth-sama, I, said Haku before she was blasted back by another wave of chakra and saw Masamune in Sephiroth's hands. I said leave my sight, Haku. Leave before I have Masamune taste your blood should you be in my presence ever again, said Sephiroth, his one wing now coming out of his shoulder and his eyes glowed with incredible power. Slowly rising from the ground of the room they were in, Haku looked at him for a second with sad eyes, and left Sephiroth's presence to go somewhere to cry at being cast aside by her angry master. With her gone, Sephiroth dispelled Masamune before walking to the bathroom to see the cracked mirror showing his reflection, and scowled at appearance that scowled back him. Deep inside of Sephiroth, the last remaining piece of Uzumaki Naruto was yelling at him for being an idiot for putting the blame entirely on Haku, as she had done what was best to keep him alive, and it was because of her that the one-winged angel was alive due to the poison Jiraiya had hit him with back during Konoha's invasion. Who was it that had removed half of the poison in his system to recover sooner than later? Who had been the one who comforted Sephiroth after seeing the bedroom that should have been his after being born, and was willing to accept any punishment he delivered for it? It was Haku. She had done just about everything that could be asked of her. Haku deserves to be rewarded for her actions, not shunned. Sephiroth's eyes narrowed at hearing the innocent part of his soul before smashing the mirror with his fist before retracting the appendage, and stared at the hand for a moment in thought. Closing his eyes, Sephiroth leaned against the sink, suddenly feeling weak for some reason, as he felt a pain in his chest, and grabbed the left side where the heart was located in the body. It wasn't a literal physical pain to his heart, Sephiroth felt, as that much about his body he knew, and knew it was of the emotional variety. Mother, what should I do? I am angry at Haku, and yet deep down, I shouldn't. I need your help, thought Sephiroth, as he wondered what his mother would do, and what he should do now. Isn't it obvious, my son? Are you so filled with hate for the Leaf that you are incapable of love? I've never known love. I wouldn't know how, thought Sephiroth to the female voice, but it was too muffled to recognize, as it could have been either Kushina or Genova from the past reaching out to him like she did that fateful day centuries ago. Maybe it was a mix of both. That's why Haku is here, Yubaka. All that girl wants is to be loved by you, but she knows about your handicap, and is trying to bring it out through her actions, and have possibly ruined something special. Now get off your ass, find Haku, and apologize for being the angriest I call a son. You always did know what to say, mother, thought Sephiroth, smiled slightly, as rose to his full height, and scanned the ship for Haku's chakra signature before vanishing to her location. With Haku, the female ice user sniffed in the heavy rain, as it poured down all around her, and Haku wondered why life had to be cruel? Everything and everyone had been removed from her life in some shape or form without any means to stop the chain reaction each event had caused. The loss of the shinobi from Sound, who were like her in wanting to fight for the purpose they so desperately desired, and keeping it by serving the master before them. Now they were in the Leaf, being tortured for information on where Sephiroth could go, and to possibly recruit them to the cause Konoha was so hell-bent on finishing. And while this happens, Sephiroth-sama casts me aside, and has threatened to kill me if I'm in his presence ever again, said Haku sadly, as she didn't want to leave his side, even after what he threatened, and yet it hurt so much when those words were spoken. Haku, said Sephiroth in a whispered voice, as he was behind her now, and his wing was still out of his shoulder. I once said that if I dragged my feet, then my life would be forfeit, and I can only think the reason you're here is to carry out that part of the agreement, said Haku, as she closed her eyes, and had to will herself in not looking back to see him. I remember that part of the agreement when you asked to follow me, said Sephiroth, as he walked silently towards Haku, and saw the girl straighten slightly to brace herself for the thrust of Masamune she was no doubt expecting. I am sorry I could not live up to your expectations, Sephiroth-sama. Hopefully my future replacement will in my place, said Haku, as she felt more tears run down her eye, and sensed Sephiroth so close now she could touch him if only for the last time. Haku, said Sephiroth, as he looked at the girl in front of him, and wished she'd turn around so they could talk properly. I'm not afraid to die, Sephiroth-sama. I'm ready, said Haku, as she put her hands to her chest, and trying to fight the pain pulsing within her heart. I'm not here to kill you, Haku. If anything, should be here simply for you to kill me for my foolish actions and stupidity, said Sephiroth, as he put one hand on her shoulder, and felt the tenseness of Haku's body increase slightly. Even now she expected him to do something like snap her neck or crush it with simple squeeze to the throat. Why do you torment me with your words? Said Haku, not believing his right now. Because only you can understand them before anyone else. I have wronged you, Haku. I have wronged you by casting aside the most loyal person I have ever met in this life or in my previous one. In my anger over the loss of the others to the Leaf, I failed to realize your actions possibly saved my life, and I shunned you for it, said Sephiroth, his mouth close to her right ear, his voice barely a whisper in this storm, and he used his wing to shield her from the rain that came down upon them. Slowly, Haku turned to face the one-winged angel of death, seeing his eyes were filled with sorrow, pain, and regret for his actions against her. It hurt Haku when spoke those words, casting her aside like an angry king does a servant just for being his presence, and saw what a mistake his anger had created. I know you are sorry, Sephiroth-sama, but even knowing that much, it still hurt me, and I felt my heart ready to break because of it, said Haku, as she slowly moved closer to fill the gap between them, and hesitantly wrapped him in a hug. Because you care about me, said Sephiroth simply, and thought he heard Haku let out a small laugh. No. I don't just care about you, Sephiroth-sama. I think I also love you. Ever since I met you, I've felt this deep yearning, and it's been guiding my hand in protecting you from harm. I didn't really come to suspect what it was until I became jealous of that Hyuga girl in Konoha, and it only increased further in the Chunin exam preliminaries when you told everyone how she had the potential to kill you, said Haku, as she felt his wing wrap around her, and felt the warmth his body created in the freezing rain. Love. It's always been a strange concept to me. Probably because I've never known what it feels like from either lifetime. Even if I did feel something like that, it wouldn't be easy for someone like me to love another, and in all honesty, I do not know if I can even love you back, Haku, said Sephiroth, as he returned the embrace, and felt dig deeper into his chest. I can teach you. If you let me? Said Haku hopefully, as she looked up at him, and saw the swordsman being unsure in taking the invitation. And how would you go about teaching me, Haku? Said Sephiroth, as he saw Haku smile at him, and lean in close to his ear. One step at a time, Sephiroth-sama. One step at a time. For now, please hold me like this, and don't stop, said Haku, as she loved how close they were, and sighed happily in the process. She didn't even notice it had stopped raining. Learning to love. Can I even feel such an emotion? I know I felt something when I stood before Genova centuries, but this feeling I have for Haku is different, and yet I know it's something close to it. Only time will tell, I suppose, thought Sephiroth, as he decided not to focus on the concept too much, and redirect his mind to what was happening in the Leaf. He had loyal followers to save. Konoha Kimimaro's cell, Kaguya Kimimaro, was held tightly in place by chains attached to his wrist that stretched to the wall, as the binders on the chains had seals engraved on them to suppress chakra, and was sitting on his knees, currently locked in place by metal that covered the knees on down. His interrogators had come in to press for information about Sephiroth after being healed, as they wanted to know his condition, and where the one-winged angel of death would go after Wave Country. Kimimaro's response was to remain silent the entire time. They countered his silence in the ways of giving him pain. Several wounds reopened, but nothing he could not endure, as Kimimaro had been through worse, and simply let them have their moment in the sun. Not that it mattered anyway, as the Kaguya knew deep within his body, his very heart, that Sephiroth would return here for them all, and unleash his godlike vengeance upon the leaf. Even if I am not here to see it happen, the act itself being completed is enough for me, and the fact my sacrifice put it in motion, thought Kimimaro, as he heard the door open to his cell, and Ibiki walked in with a scowl on his face that would have made others shiver in fear. "We need to talk," said Ibiki in a growl of a voice, as he saw Kimimaro look up at him with those definite eyes, and knew this conversation could become very short very fast. "You are the head of the INT department, aren't you? The one who reports to the Hokage, and tells her your findings on me along with the others. In that case, I have nothing to say to the likes of you except this, so listen well. I am not afraid to die. I am not afraid of pain in any shape or form unleashed upon my being. My purpose in this world is to protect the one who has given me honor and the respect denied my whole life. You seek to destroy that one person for whatever reason the leaf wants him destroyed, using me along with the others to achieve your goal, which has brought us here to an impasse, as I will not betray Sephiroth-sama, and I'd rather die knowing my last act to him was of one loyalty instead of betrayal," said Kimimaro right into the eyes of Ibiki that spoke volumes to the scarred man before seeing the leaf shinobi leave the room. With his mind spoken, Kimimaro lowered his head to wait for the inevitable end to his life, and a silent prayer that Sephiroth along with Haku were doing all right. "Hokage's office, so he won't talk?" said Tsunade, as she saw Ibiki shake his head no, and sighed at the resistance the entire group Jiraiya brought back. "None of them will. I've never seen anything like it before." In the short time they were with Sephiroth, he managed to have their undying loyalty, and won't break for any offer we give in exchange for information, said Ibiki, as some had been offered some form of leniency, but they all spat in the face of those deals, and simply awaited the execution that would await them. There are certain people in this world, Ibiki, who cannot be bribed, beaten, or be made to submit to the wills of others. This village has forgotten that because it's become too fat and lazy to see the truth about that simple fact since we've been victorious in battles more times than not, said Tsunade, as she saw Ibiki nod in understanding, and look out the window at the village. Like Sephiroth, said Ibiki simply, as he knew the boy was something to do what he did in such a short time, and wondered to himself if staying on the side of the leaf was the right thing to do? Like my godson. Not that it matters in regards to those 8 since the Fire Daimyo is coming here to witness their public execution in the next couple of days, said Tsunade, wishing Jiraiya had kept his big mouth shut, but couldn't since the councils would have just done it for him, and made things worse. There is more to it than that, right? Said Ibiki, as he saw the Hokage nod, and rub her temples in frustration. The Fire Daimyo along with Jiraiya want to force Sephiroth's hand in coming here in the belief he's not up to full strength yet since they know he wasn't conscious at the time. The councils asked Inoiki to do a psychological profile on Sephiroth based on what we do know about him and his past actions since his return. I take it you read the report when it came out? Said Tsunade, as the report came out only yesterday, but every single shinobi with clearance had gotten a copy, and was reading it word for word. Yeah. It was a real page-turner. Inoiki believes that while Sephiroth is indeed ruthless in the ways of the sword the old legends make him out to be, there is a sliver of humanity now in him from Uzumaki Naruto, and is keeping your godson from destroying everyone in his line of sight. He also believes if provoked, Sephiroth will permanently suppress his conscience, and bring out the fear monster that nearly destroyed the world ages ago, said Ibiki, seeing the Hokage nod at that information. If these 8 are killed, I fear for the lives of the innocent people in the leaf, as they will not be spared Sephiroth's wrath, and we may lose the piece of Uzumaki Naruto that keeps him in check, said Tsunade, looking out at the window at the people below, and had a premonition of what was going to happen. Bringing about a natural disaster that will be far worse than the Kyuubi ever was, said Ibiki, grimacing at this news. How were they going to get out of this? 3 days later, day of the public execution, the Fire Daimyo smiled with pride, as he was surrounded by his samurai bodyguards, and looked at the 8 individuals about to be hanged one by one on his command. Beside him, the Hokage was frowning at this move, as she had told him this was a very bad idea in provoking Sephiroth, but the feudal lord ignored it, and looked to his other side where Jiraiya was standing. They knew that this announcement of executing the loyal followers of Sephiroth would reach beyond Fire Country and reach their intended target. People of the Leaf, I stand before you as your feudal lord, with your Hokage on one side, and Jiraiya of the Sannin on the other. Behind us, you will see the 8 followers of Namikaze Sephiroth, who was responsible for killing the Sandaime Hokage, and helped Orochimaru with the invasion of this village before betraying the late Snake Sannin, said the Fire Daimyo, showing the bound and ready to be executed group via hanging. I shouldn't be up here. This is wrong and these two don't care, thought Tsunade, as she saw her apprentice watching with the people below, and giving a help them before it's too late. Look that the Hokage wished she could act upon. For following the traitor Orochimaru, then Namikaze Sephiroth soon after, it is on my order, the Fire Daimyo of Konoha, that these 8 here be executed, and a clear message be sent to their master. A message that will ensure that it is Sephiroth himself, who is the one trembling in fear, and all those that follow him know the price of being loyal to such a monster, said the Fire Daimyo, as he got cheers from the people, and the calling for the death of the soon-to-be-killed prisoners. He's feeding off the bloodthirsty mob. How typical can you get? Thought Tsunade with disgust, as she turned to see the group about to be executed, and wanted to stop it. Don't even think about it, Tsunade. The Fire Daimyo has an order to restrain you if your body somehow moves on its own to stop this, said Jiraiya, seeing the woman look at her in surprise and then saw the surprise turn to a scowl. Fine. But don't come begging to me when Sephiroth is about to slice you in half, said Tsunade, as she wasn't going to help Jiraiya in that fight, and the Fire Daimyo could die of testicular cancer for all she cared. As if he'll have the strength to oppose me. He should still have some of the poison in his system, thought Jiraiya, as he didn't realize the fatal flaw in his calculations, and didn't even consider the possibility of Haku being able to use her bloodline to extract half of what was put into Sephiroth's body. Do either of you have anything to say before your death, said the Fire Daimyo, seeing them all stay silent in defiance of his actions, and was a bit disappointed they didn't want to beg for his mercy. Not that he'd give it. Actually, Fire Daimyo, I would like to say something on their behalf, said Sephiroth from behind the mob of people, causing the said mob to scatter, scream, and hide behind anything they could. All around him, Shinobi of the Leaf, and the feudal lord samurai drew weapons to engage Sephiroth in battle. So you came. Finally decided to come out of hiding? Said the Fire Daimyo, smiling like a kid out fishing and caught a huge one on his first try. Sephiroth-sama, you should not be here, said Kimimaro, as he now struggled almost like a rabid animal in a cage to get free, and so did the others, knowing he had come to their rescue. Nonsense. Your loyalty to me should be rewarded, and I am here to do just that, said Sephiroth, as he smiled at them before walking towards the execution platform, and now walked up the steps while ignoring the armed attackers around him ready to strike. And do you intend to do that? Said the Fire Daimyo with a raised eyebrow and curiosity showing in his body language. Simple. I'm going to take their place, said Sephiroth, seeing the shocked looks now on everyone's faces. What did you say? Said Tsunade in disbelief, and saw the boy's followers looking just as shocked. I trade places with them. They go free. Untouched, unharmed, and unspoiled by the leaf to go wherever they see fit, said Sephiroth, as he saw tears form in Kimimaro's eyes, and in the others too, since they didn't expect this to happen. No, Sephiroth-sama. Don't, said Kimimaro, struggling with all his might to get free so such a sacrifice wouldn't be made on their behalf. I will and I must, Kimimaro, said Sephiroth, as he was now at the top of the platform, and saw each of them looking at him with pleading faces not to do this. Wait. Where is that Haku girl? Said Jiraiya, looking around for the female ice user in case this was some kind of ambush. Don't worry your pathetic life, Jiraiya-san. Haku didn't have the heart to be here for what is about to happen, said Sephiroth, as he saw the Sannin glare, and take his mind off of Haku. So you're willing to throw away your life for theirs? Why the sudden generosity? Said Jiraiya suspiciously while staring at the one-winged angel right in the eyes. You sound surprised. Why? Didn't my father do the same for this village? Didn't almost all of my family on both sides ever so generously give their lives for people around them? You make it sound like I'm the exception to that long-standing family tradition. Still, now that you just happen to bring it up, if there was anyone in my family not willing to die for others, it's you, Jiraiya-san, said Sephiroth, as he saw Jiraiya scowl further, and could see the Sannin wanted to kill him right now for that statement. Watch your mouth, brat, said Jiraiya, as he wasn't about to take this from the Gaki, and make him regret ever being born. Or reborn. Or whatever it Sephiroth was in that regard. Or what, Jiraiya? You'll try to poison me again with that seal? Won't work. My body is now fully immune to it. Even if you dump the rest of it into my body, it would do little to hamper my power, and just be a minor annoyance like its creator, said Sephiroth, as he saw Jiraiya once more become angry with him. and would have moved forward to engage the young swordsman in combat had the fire daimyo raised a hand to stop it. "You're here to trade your life for theirs. Isn't that right?" said the fire daimyo, eyeing the boy carefully. "Yes. Do we have a deal?" said Sephiroth, while Kimimaro and the others telling him not to do this. "Deal, provided that once we set them free, they don't try to rescue you, or do something equally rash that leads to your escape," said the fire daimyo, while seeing Sephiroth eye his followers for a second and then look back at him. "We have an accord then," said Sephiroth with a smirk on his face, and saw the group be let go, though they were restrained slightly by the Anbu around them due to the fact they were still struggling. "Sephiroth-sensei, don't do this," said Kin, as she saw the only person willing to give a damn about to die so she wouldn't have to a second time, and saw and looked back at her before smiling a gentle smile that made the girl's heart feel unimaginable pain. "It is unavoidable, Kin. We do what we must," said Sephiroth, as he walked over to the middle execution spot where Kitamaru had been, and turned around before putting the noose around his neck. "Hold on. I want to kill him," said Sasuke, as he heard the people now cheer for the last Uchiha, calling him their hero, and finishing what the Yondaime wanted. "Out of the question," said Tsunade, as she was not about to simply hand over the life of Sephiroth to the Uchiha just so the boy could have such a thing on his belt, and inflate his ego beyond measure. "No, Tsunade. I'll allow it." "How do you intend to kill Sephiroth though, Uchiha Sasuke?" said the fire daimyo before Kakashi appeared beside his student with a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I taught him my original jutsu, the Chidori, which will be aimed at Sephiroth's heart, and kill him upon the organ being pierced by the attack," said Kakashi with pride in his voice that made Tsunade want to vomit. "Very well. You may proceed, Uchiha-san," said the fire daimyo, allowing a wide enough gap for Sasuke to charge Sephiroth, who was currently being held by two Anbu, and were whispering to him about how he was going to go to hell for his past crimes along with having the Kyuubi sealed inside his body. Not likely, thought Sephiroth to himself, as he watched Sasuke create the jutsu, and charge forward with his Sharingan active, thanks to Kakashi training him personally after it had been unlocked. "Die, scum," said Sasuke, as he thrust the Chidori into Sephiroth's chest, and smiled devilishly and feeling the blood of the feared one-winged angel of deaths on his elite hands. "No," yelled the group, as they saw blood run down Sephiroth's mouth, and yet he still had the strength to smile slightly with blood running down the sides of his mouth. "I cannot die. I will never become a memory," said Sephiroth, as he began laughing at them, and it became louder with each passing second. "What the hell?" said Sasuke, as the body of Namikaze Sephiroth turned to dirt and mud that fell to the ground while the laughter echoed throughout the village. The Sephiroth that Sasuke had killed was actually a mud clone. He went back on the deal. "Kill all the prisoners," said the fire daimyo, turning to the Anbu and samurai that held the 8 down. Only to find the 8 prisoners not there, and those restraining them were down with senbone needles jammed hard into various points in their bodies. "Lock down the village and find them." Jiraiya, knowing that a group as big as the one Sephiroth had formed couldn't get out of here without going through one of the gates. "No need. I'm right here," said Sephiroth behind Jiraiya and the fire daimyo now turning to face him. "Kill him," said the fire daimyo in a slightly panicky voice to the shinobi and samurai around him. "I cannot be killed by the likes of you," said Sephiroth, as he vanished from their sight, and then reappeared right in front of the now terrified fire daimyo. Behind Sephiroth, all the shinobi and samurai that tried to move against him had been sliced to pieces in a ruthless display of his sword skills that created a cloud of blood that soon drenched the platform. The fire daimyo jumped back in fright, as he stared at the monster before him, and saw Jiraiya hesitant to make a move should Sephiroth decide to end the feudal lord's life. As for Tsunade, she just had her eyes shut for a moment before looking over at where her godson was, and then walked away from them. "Tsunade, what are you doing? Come back here," said Jiraiya, as he saw the woman walking away, and then looked back at him with a foxy smile. "But I can't, Jiraiya-kun. Don't you remember? If I interfere, it goes against the order of the fire daimyo, and I would never go against an official order given personally by Fire Country's feudal lord. Have fun, you two. Come on, Hinata. Shizune. We're leaving," said Tsunade, as she walked away from this battle, and soon to leave since it was clear this place was doing just fine without her being around. "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Isn't that right, Jiraiya? You have scorned my godmother for the last time, and just as I was Genova's instrument of revenge centuries ago, so will I beat Tsunade's against the two of you," said Sephiroth, grinning an evil grin that made the fire daimyo back up slightly, pissing his pants, and whimpering like a whipped dog. "Please don't kill me. You have to understand, the people of the Leaf and Fire Country had to be protected. After what Jiraiya The Yondaime and Sandaime Hokage told me I felt there were no other options, said the fire daimyo, seeing the glowing deadly eyes of Sephiroth looking back at him that screamed vengeance. I see. In that case, you will have to understand that the actions I take against you, Jiraiya, and the leaf is the only option I feel is the best choice before me, said Sephiroth, as he unleashed repeated flash after flash of light from his sword, now moving in a complex pattern no one seeing it could follow, and when the one-winged angel stopped, the body of the fire daimyo literally disintegrated into bloodstained dust. No, said Jiraiya, as he looked from where the fire daimyo had once been standing to where Sephiroth was, and charged the murderer with the full intent of crushing the boy with his own 2 hands. Don't worry, Jiraiya-san. You're next. Devil's Chains, said Sephiroth, casting a spell that had once been a forbidden genjutsu in the scroll of sealing. Only young Namikaze had tweaked the illusion so that it couldn't be broken by the victim. The dispelling of it lied entirely in the discretion of its caster. As for Jiraiya himself, the instant the spell's name was spoken, demonic-looking razor-sharp chains sprung up from the ground through the platform, and wrapped around all 4 limbs of the Sannin. They bound him tightly, piercing his clothing, into his flesh, tearing skin, muscle tissue, blood vessels, and squeezing the arms in the process to cut circulation to each limb the longer they were on him. Jiraiya cried out in pain, as he tried to break it by using the pain method by biting his lip until it bled to break, and only after it didn't break did the Sannin realize it wasn't a genjutsu. Now is my chance, thought Sasuke, as he had been ignored by everyone now, and began to charge up another Chidori, and strike Sephiroth down to prove he was an elite. You are foolish, Uchiha. And a fool like yourself deserves a fool's death, said Sephiroth quietly, as he instantly threw Masamune at Sasuke the moment he got into the stance to create the Chidori, and pierced the Uchiha through the chest into the pole Tuya had been tied to during the public spectacle. Sasuke, said Kakashi, as his only eye widened at the sight of seeing Obito's cousin with the blade of the Nadachi pierced through his chest, and now pinned like paper on a wall by a thumbtack. Now where was I? Oh yes, I was giving you, Jiraiya-san, your long overdue just desserts for your actions against me, and my godmother, said Sephiroth, as he smiled a cruel smile, and walked towards the restrained Sannin currently in unimaginable agony. Die, monster. Reikiri, said Kakashi, as he charged forward with the Chidori's big brother, and intended to pierce right through Sephiroth with his attack. Barrier, said Sephiroth, as a circular barrier of crystallized energy surrounded the area between him, and Kakashi's arm arching into striking form. Kakashi for his part was too driven with rage to back down now, as he swore to avenge Sasuke using this attack to finish what his student started, and end the living scar of village if not the Namikaze clan. He didn't care that this boy was his sensei's son. This boy had been abused by the village for something that wasn't kid's fault, and screwed over by the higher-ups that in reality set things in motion leading up to this moment. What Kakashi cared about was seeing Namikaze Sephiroth dead and his body burned so the twisted soul inhabiting it would go straight to hell. When the Reikiri struck the barrier, the shield did its intended job, and Kakashi was sent flying off the platform into a nearby building. As this happened, Sephiroth looked at the still defiant Sannin, and held up his left hand to summon a dark orb that soon bubbled like it was liquid like hot tar with the kanji for poison appearing on it. By this point, Jiraiya's eyes opened at their widest in realization, as he knew what that orb was in Sephiroth's hands, and tried harder to get free, though it only created more pain. Not that Sephiroth cared if Jiraiya struggled to get free from the spell he cast, since it only caused the victim to feel more pain from trying, and the young swordsman was hoping the Sannin would try to get free at seeing the orb. A seal master like Jiraiya would recognize his handiwork easily, as a painter would recognizing the handiwork of a painting, or a builder recognizing something built personally with their own 2 hands. For Jiraiya, it was the poison he had sealed into Sephiroth on the boy's last visit to the leaf, and the Sannin was shocked that so much of the poison had been extracted. Then again, it now made perfect sense to the Toad Sannin in seeing the swordsman being the epitome of perfect health, and no longer burdened with the weakness the poison caused on the body. That Haku girl, she must have done something, and help accelerate Sephiroth's recovery. Thought Jiraiya, as that was the only real conclusion he could come up with, and the only one that made sense in his mind. I see you recognize your own handiwork, Jiraiya-san. After Haku extracted half of the poison in my body, I turned it into this orb floating before you, and decided to keep it for the purpose of getting my revenge. You see, Jiraiya, I'm not going to kill you with my trusted sword Masamune, as I could not stand the thought of having your blood stain the blade of my weapon, and decided to use this orb to make you suffer, said Sephiroth, as he saw Jiraiya look fearfully at the orb, and then back at him. You're a monster, said Jiraiya simply, since it was all he could say. I know I am, Jiraiya-san. I am a heartless monster, who will do heartless things well after today is over, and such actions will be all thanks to you along with the other heartless people responsible for setting things in motion. Now open wide my grandfather and take your just desserts. I call this little attack number, poisonous humility," said Sephiroth, as he grabbed Jiraiya by the throat in a hard enough grip to make the Sannin's mouth open, and then stuffed the orb right into the man's mouth. The attack number, as Sephiroth had so terrifyingly put it, was far from little due to the thickness of the poison formed into a single circular orb, and entering the body in the most conventional way to directly poison someone. Within seconds of Jiraiya swallowing the orb, the Sannin began to convulse in unimaginable pain, the veins in his body that showed where the poison was, and mapping out where they were traveling began to form. The poison eventually reached the Toad Sannin's eyes, causing them to burn from the inside out, the teeth began to fall out, blood oozing with the poison was running down his nose, ears, and even slowly now through his eyes too. Jiraiya's mouth began to cough up a bloody-colored foam before his body began to shake violently in a vicious seizure, with the spell on his body only magnifying the incredible pain the man was in. And all the while this was happened, Sephiroth just smiled, as he watched this agonizing death before him without any sympathy for the man, and enjoying it like a music lover enjoys the sound of an orchestra symphony. In a strange way, Jiraiya's death was some crude sadistic masterpiece of theater, and Sephiroth had orchestrated its beginning all the way to the man's literal end quite well. Sephiroth knew Jiraiya would do something that would weaken, if not try to kill him in the event the two fought each other long before their first encounter, and the Sannin did not disappoint in that regard. With his body fully recovered, Sephiroth knew this would be his moment to return the favor, and the last two conspirators that kick-started his abuse had basically invited the one-winged angel of death to enter Konoha. They did everything but roll out the red carpet, and have a sign saying "just try," in big flashy letters, and neon lights with fireworks shooting into the air. Fools. All of them. Walking back to his sword, Sephiroth pulled Masamune from Sasuke's chest, and let the Uchiha's body slump on the floor before ripping off a piece of the dead boy's shirt to clean the blade of the arrogant child's blood. Dispelling his prized weapon, Sephiroth walked down the steps of the platform, and headed towards nearest gate to leave Konoha. "Sephiroth-sama, wait," said Lee, as he jumped down behind Sephiroth, and kneeled respectfully before the swordsman. "Yes, Lee?" said Sephiroth, turning to face the older boy.
I wish to thank you for saving me in the hospital during the Chunin exams.
Being a shinobi has been my entire purpose in life, and I almost lost it before you visited me in the hospital. Thank you, Sephiroth-sama, for giving me a second chance," said Lee, as he saw Sephiroth smile, and then put a hand on his shoulder. "You're most welcome, Lee. I just wish your loyalty to the Leaf didn't impede you of the opportunity to join me. Maybe one day you will change your mind, but I can wait until then, and I know when the moment is right you'll know it too," said Sephiroth, seeing the shocked look on Lee's face before he turned to walk away. "What about Guy-sensei? Tenten and Neji?" said Lee, wondering if they could come with him should that moment in time actually happen. "Just like you, Lee, it is their choice to leave Konoha," said Sephiroth before he was out of Lee's sight moments later. When Sephiroth had made it to the gate of choice to exit out of the Leaf, he stopped at the sight of different Anbu, Jounin, and even the remaining samurai standing in front of him with weapons drawn. It was clear to him that they weren't going to let the boy leave just yet, if at all, after seeing what he had done to Jiraiya, and the fire daimyo before that. "You're going to die today, monster. For every single person you killed, we are going to make you regret ever existing in this world, and send you back to hell," said Asuma, as he had been let out of prison thanks to the councils, and the fire daimyo after the failed invasion of the Leaf ended. "Unfortunately, Asuma-san, hell is not ready to take me, as I have a mission to complete, but I do believe you, and the group behind you are long overdue for your journey there," said Sephiroth, as he grinned at the group, and then began laughing at them all. "Kill him. Avenge our comrades and loved ones," said Asuma, as the large force of Leaf shinobi and samurai now charged Sephiroth with the intent to kill the swordsman. Unfortunately for them, Sephiroth had other plans in terms of dealing with the group, and those plans involved the summoning of a creature long since forgotten during the last time he was alive centuries ago, before the 10-tailed beast roamed the world. Within mere moments, the boy unleashed an incredible amount of chakra that shot up into the sky, and created a massive storm cloud above the village. In the now stormy sky above the Leaf, a roar of an angry dragon was heard, and a great power was felt by everyone. And it was getting stronger. The source of this power was in the form of a massive dragon, which crashed behind Sephiroth onto countless buildings, and roared with the power behind it, shaking the village down to its very foundation. More buildings collapsed, the ground cracked all around the village, and all 5 heads of the Hokage monument itself was now severely damaged. "Meet my summons. The king of all dragons. Lord of the heavens and the ruler of the skies. I present to you, Bahamut, said Sephiroth, seeing his foes backing up in fear they had not felt since the QB first attacked over a decade ago, and saw the power of this beast seem to match if not surpass the fox. Run, said one of the Anbu, as the group tried to scatter, and missed Sephiroth, head shaking in disappointment before looking up at the great beast. Wipe them out, Bahamut. Make them pay for their arrogance and sins. Mega Flare, said Sephiroth before the massive dragon formed a massive ball of energy in its mouth and fired the blast at the fleeing leaf forces. An explosion of white light later, Sephiroth's opposition was destroyed, and created a massive path of destruction leading out of the village. Thanking Bahamut for its actions, Sephiroth dismissed the king of the dragons, and headed outside of the leaf to meet up with the others. Underground Root HQ, so they're all dead, said Danzo, as he saw Sai kneeling before him, shaking slightly in the emotion that was fear, and the leader of the officially disbanded organization decided to let it go this time. Since Sai had seen something, or rather someone worth fearing. Yes, Danzo-sama. Both Jiraiya-sama and the Fire Daimyo were killed by Sephiroth, while Tsunade has left the village with her assistant Shizune along with her apprentice Hyuga Hinata, said Sai, seeing Danzo smirk, knowing the councils would have no choice but to accept him as the new Hokage, and bring Root officially back to further bolster the ranks of the Leaf once again. And it will take time for the Fire Daimyo successor to take over at the Fire Country capital, which will give me time to take the title of Hokage, and put my own plans into action. What of Uchiha Sasuke? Said Danzo, as he saw Sai pause for a second, and knew this meant the boy was going to give an answer he wouldn't like. Uchiha Sasuke is dead, Danzo-sama. Sephiroth killed him on the platform with his sword to Other's chest, said Sai, sensing Danzo's anger at this news, since the old War Hawk had planned to put Sasuke into the Root program and create a new generation of Uchihas after some proper conditioning to make it possible. That's unfortunate, but it won't stop me from dominating the elemental countries, and being its new hero like the Yondame. Prepare 3 Root Onbu squads and find the village hidden in the waterfall to capture their demon vessel to be brought under my control, said Danzo, as he knew the only way Konoha could become strong again was to get his hands on at least one demon vessel, and Waterfall had one of the stronger tailed beasts in their possession. Yes, Danzo-sama, said Sai before leaving quickly to find the teams his master desired for this mission. Inwardly, Danzo was pleased with this turn of events, as all had to do was get one of these vessels under his control, if not properly restrained before going after the others, and then make a team of loyal, obedient Jinchuriki weapons. A team that would have the power to take down the one-winged angel of death and bring the monster before him to control just like the others. Then Danzo would rule the elemental countries and be its new emperor. No. Not the emperor of the elemental countries. Its new god. That made Danzo smile. That made Danzo laugh. After a few miles of walking away from Konoha, Sephiroth heard the laughter echoing around him before turning slightly back towards the leaf, and smiled, knowing it was one of his enemies, and the leaf that stayed in the shadows was the source of it. Despite this fact, Sephiroth couldn't help but smile, knowing that this particular enemy in question would eventually make his move in the future, and the one-winged angel would take great pleasure in finishing the leaf off at the appropriate time. Chapter 10. Time flies. 3 years has passed since Sephiroth had hit Konoha hard. 3 years since the Leaf's Hokage, a one Senju Tsunade, her assistant Shizune, and apprentice Hyuga Hinata left the village. During that time, Namikaze Sephiroth was a marked man, but given a wide space at first after word got out about the devastation the man caused, and gave him along with the others a chance to plan for the future. The former Sound Shinobi, who had once served under Orochimaru, didn't want to leave Sephiroth, as he had been good to them, and would follow him anywhere. Within a few days of leaving Konoha, the group had met up with Tsunade, Shizune, and Hinata to discuss their futures, knowing it wouldn't be long before they were all hunted down by the Leaf's hunter Nin. The problem was where do they go and how to prevent Konoha shinobi or any other shinobi from another village from hunting them all down like dogs. The answer came thanks to Haku, as she suggested both groups go to Mist, as they could acquire refuge there after Zabuza had overthrown the Mizukage, and the demon of the Bloody Mist had become its new ruler. While hesitant to go at first, the group as a whole realized they had nowhere else to go since Wave was out of the question, and every other village would be out for their blood. Well, except for Suna, but they weren't going to risk it, and decided Haku's idea was the best one they had. Upon arriving to Mist, the group was instantly met by Zabuza, who had successfully overthrown the Mizukage with the help of a red-headed woman, and his secret girlfriend Terumi Mei. Since then, Sephiroth along with the others had become official shinobi of the Mist, and fixed the problems had within it. Tsunade ran the hospital with an iron fist, and Shizune being her assistant to make sure the fist didn't kill anyone stupid enough to question her. After the previous Mizukage was slain, a look through his own personal effects revealed Yagura, who was the three-tailed Jinchuriki, had a detailed personal journal, which held clues to the madness of his life regarding the bloodline civil war, and cryptic messages hidden underneath the writing. References had been made to a pair of eyes that were used to influence the man's behavior, speaking to him before speaking to others, and how deep down the late Mizukage was filled with regret for not being strong enough to fight back against the puppeteer that pulled his strings from the shadows. When Sephiroth was shown the journal, he scanned the contents of the book, and found the description of the eyes used against the former Mizukage made the Namikaze draw the conclusion that Sharingan eyes were used on the man. After consulting with Zabuza, Tsunade, and Mei since she was in Mist Sanbu in order to hide her bloodlines from the Mist Shinobi hunting people for them, the four had determined that there was an Uchiha out there in the elemental countries with incredible power, as Tsunade had revealed her grandfather had a similar power, but with the opposite effect on demons, or Jinchuriki in terms of calming them down. Mei had noticed during her time in Mist Sanbu squads that Yagura had glassy eyes like he was under a genjutsu and had on more than one time tried to secretly break what she thought was one surrounding him, but the man was unaffected by each attempt, and she shrugged it off in being something that had to do with being the three-tailed Jinchuriki. Zabuza suggested it was possibly Uchiha Itachi since the man was possibly the only one in existence to have the Sharingan eyes now and could have the skills to sneak into the mist to influence Yagura. Sephiroth, however, disagreed with that statement since Yagura had long been manipulated before Itachi had mastered the power of his eyes, and thus it couldn't be him. Tsunade had an idea, but was unsure if it was even remotely possible considering the one person she could think was capable of this manipulation was supposed to be dead, and had died fighting her grandfather. His name was Uchiha Madara. However, Sephiroth was sure the man was in fact alive, as the facts had shown the very founder of the Uchiha clan was not dead like many thought, and had plotted to weaken Mist since the bloodlines in the village prior to the bloodline civil war were a threat to the Sharingan. Everything was done in a calculating manner where only one person could possibly benefit from such things, and that person was Uchiha Madara. So for the past 3 years, Sephiroth had been preparing himself, Haku, and his other subordinates for the battles to come. Fortunately, they had the time to do that, as the Leaf's chain of command was still being figured out, as Kumo had strengthened their own borders during the shift in power, and Iwa was gearing up for a possible fight with the Leaf with the signs of weakness in having so many shinobi die. Suna was also following Kumo's lead by going defensive too, as it had no reason anymore to stay allied with the Leaf, had no ties to Iwa, and shifted into being a more active shinobi village. The wrath of Namikaze Sephiroth had put a lot of people on edge. The fact he was once the Kyuubi Jinchuriki after fully absorbing the last of the fox's power into his body made them very nervous, and the fact his associates were also strong too only added to the other villages thinking twice about attacking Mist. As for Sephiroth himself, on an emotional level of understanding things, Haku had done everything in her power to help him understand love, and got the one-winged angel of death to feel it during their time together. Haku wasn't the only one helping either, as the shy Hyuga Hinata herself had finally admitted with help from Tsunade and Shizune that she liked the silver-haired swordsman. Telling the Namikaze to his face, even being so bold as to say it in front of Haku, and not wavering in the slightest knowing it could be all or nothing at that point. At first, Haku was against having such help from the beautiful Hyuga girl, but Hinata would not budge, and even challenged the female ice user to an all-out fight with the winner earning the right to be called the Namikaze's lover. Sephiroth would have none of that. Sephiroth had seen enough fangirls, lovers, and other relationships fall apart because the male was loved by more than one female. He had seen females fight like wild animals, hurting each other for the one male, when all they had to do was share the male they both wanted, and coexist with each other in a delicate symbiotic balance. So Sephiroth put his foot down, telling Haku if she couldn't share him with Hinata, then there would be no union between any of them, and that would be the end of it. Neither girl wanted that and both promised to share him while secretly making sure the other girl wasn't gaining more favor. That was 6 months ago. On this particular morning, Sephiroth awoke to what was becoming a routine thing for him, as both Haku and Hinata were now sleeping on either side of his bare chest. Each woman wearing little in terms of undergarments, as they snuggled up to him with a sense of warmth and contentment neither girl wished to lose. While they slept, Sephiroth stared at the ceiling of his home, which was, according to everyone outside, who had seen it, had basically stated the place was a mansion, and suspected the idea for the house being so big came from Haku on account of the young swordsman needing to rebuild his clan. The silver-haired swordsman wondered how this was even possible for someone like himself to be loved not just by one woman, but two of them, and how they wanted to be with him at all. He was a bringer of death. Who wants to be tied to him in terms of romance and love? Sephiroth-kun, said Haku lovingly, as she kissed his left shoulder, and moaned for his touch. One more time. Keep going, said Hinata, as she was in her own dream, and it didn't take a genius to know it was a perverted one. They did apparently. "Mother, what would you think of me now, and would you approve of new course I have taken?" thought Sephiroth, as he knew his previous self would have never partaken to the pleasures of the flesh, as that version of himself would have considered such things to be meaningless, and a waste of time for him. Sephiroth blamed the part of him that was Uzumaki Naruto. That little fraction of a soul in him that was his conscience. Telling him to be with those that actually cared and didn't fear his wrath like everyone else did. Sephiroth couldn't argue with that, as few did more than fear him, and it was a rare if not a refreshing feeling to be around someone that was not afraid to be in his presence without the fear of having a sword take their head off. "Good morning, Sephiroth-kun," said Haku, as she awoke from her slumber, and smiled at the swordsman's face. "And good morning to you too, Haku-chan," said Sephiroth in his usual smooth voice that could make women swoon and melt butter. "Sleep well?" said Haku while still smiling. "With you and Hinata beside me?" "Always," said Sephiroth, as he saw Haku's smile now decrease slightly, but it returned a second later, and knew the female ice user still didn't trust Hinata. Even now, Haku still felt the whispered desire to reach for Hinata's neck, and give it a squeeze until she heard the pleasant snap sound that came from crushing someone's throat. "What are your plans for today, my love?" said Haku just as Hinata was awakening from her own slumber. "Business with your surrogate father, I'm afraid. There is a mission for me that requires my full attention today," said Sephiroth while Haku and Hinata pouted at him. "What kind of mission?" said Hinata, seeing Sephiroth turn his head to her now. "He didn't say." "Another high-ranking mission would be my guess," said Sephiroth, as he had been sent on quite a few of them in the past 3 years, learned much in regards to the Akatsuki organization hunting the other Jinchuriki, and several of its members. A raid on the late Orochimaru's bases helped in giving him information even if it was partially outdated since being collected. So after rising from their beds, the three showered separately, and got dressed before heading to the Mizukage Tower to see Zabuza buried deep in paperwork. The man had clearly realized that the paperwork would forever haunt him too late after becoming the new Mizukage, and was seconds away from chopping the desk in half with the papers along with it before they came in. "Oh, thank Kami, it's you three. I thought Mei had come in with more paperwork for me to sign," said Zabuza, as he secretly suspected Mei was doing this on purpose out of some form of spite to get back at him for becoming Mizukage, and was laughing at his expense in the process. With Mei, the red-haired woman was laughing evilly at putting so much paperwork on Zabuza's desk before she sneezed and thought the man was talking about her. Letting out a small sniffle, Mei continued laughing evilly at how she got her lover to become consumed in doing paperwork while she got to lounge about reading romance novels, and sipping fine wine. "Back at the Mizukage Tower, you have a mission for us?" said Hinata, seeing Zabuza shake his head no. "Not for you three. Just your boyfriend here." "High priority one," said Zabuza, as he threw the mission scroll at Sephiroth, who caught it, and read the contents. "2 members of the Akatsuki organization are on the move near Kumo. No doubt they are aiming for the other Jinchuriki there. You want me to intercept them?" said Sephiroth, seeing Zabuza nod his head. "Yeah. Since your own tenant has been fully absorbed into you for a short while, we don't have to worry about them targeting you for that purpose, and basically cut loose in taking them down. I've also got reports of the new Hokage Danzo trying to find the Jinchuriki in Taki, as he plans to use her like a weapon, and it's rumored he had a means to do that. We don't know how he can since the Uchiha bloodline has been removed from Konoha, but the old geezer wouldn't be trying unless he had a way to do it, and most likely does so. I'm having Kimimaro, Kin, and Kitamaru heading to Taki to warn the girl there of the threat the leaf represents," said Zabuza, seeing Sephiroth nod. "What about us?" said Haku, seeing Zabuza give her a mission scroll. "You two are going on a mission with Dosu, Zaku, and Tuya to Snow Country on an A-ranked mission to protect some famous actress. She's filming some movie and there is a scene where they intend to shoot in heavily snow-filled area. Don't let down your guard while there, since Snow is ruled by a cruel dictator named Dodo and will most likely cause you problems with his snow shinobi if they are sent to investigate," said Zabuza, as he knew the terrain would give Haku a distinct advantage with the water during the boat ride over, and the ice-cold temperatures practically unaffecting her physically. "When do we leave?" said Hinata, knowing the sooner they completed the mission the sooner she could be with Sephiroth again. "Within the hour. Pack what you need and get ready to move. Oh, one more thing. The actress in question gets flighty in a dramatic fashion, so don't be surprised if she tries to run," said Zabuza, seeing the girls nod before all three left. "Oh, Zabuza-kun, I have more paperwork for you," said Mei in a sweet voice that Zabuza knew was as sweet as sour grapes. "Damn IT woman. Stop giving me so much paperwork," yelled Zabuza in irritation. Then put a baby in me, damn it, yelled May, as she dropped the papers on his desk, and gave him with a look in her eyes that told him to choose his next course of action. One option was doing countless hours of paperwork. Or impregnating May and being a father to a kid that will whine all day with its mother telling him to be a man and raising the child after she used the pregnancy to marry him. Hand me that form, would you? Said Zabuza, causing May scream in fury and hit him over the head with a paperweight before storming out. You are sleeping on the couch tonight, yelled May before slamming the door shut. It was worth it, said Zabuza, since he wasn't ready to be a father, and night of sex that would knock up his girlfriend wasn't worth 9 months of her going hormonally crazy with a kid that she'd pin on him to look over. Lightning country with Sephiroth, okay. Not what I was expecting, said Sephiroth, seeing himself surrounded by Kumo Shinobi armed to the teeth and knee Yugito with them. You are trespassing, Miss Shinobi, said Yugito, stepping forward and seeing he was indeed the infamous Namikaze Sephiroth she had heard about. I know. I'm actually here to intercept 2 missing nin high up in what you may have heard as the Akatsuki organization. I believe they are after you, said Sephiroth, seeing Yugito stiffen a bit with the Nibi inside of her shaking a little in fear. So you know what I am, said Yugito, seeing Sephiroth nod. Of course. Hard not to. I could sense the Nibi's power before I was halfway here, said Sephiroth, seeing the Kumo Shinobi around Yugito become tense. How do we know you aren't here to capture me like the Akatsuki are trying to do? Said Yugito, seeing Sephiroth smirk at her. If I wanted to capture you, then your fellow Kumo Shinobi would be dead by now, and I would have dragged your broken body back to Mist, said Sephiroth before he flared his power to cause every shinobi around him to tremble in fear. I see. I sense you are as strong as the rumors claim, said Yugito, while hearing Nibi tell her that Kyubi had been fully absorbed into the Namikaze and was no more. No. The rumors are inaccurate. I'm stronger, said Sephiroth simply, yet his face had a predatory look to it that made several Chonin with Yugito shiver. You claim the Akatsuki are coming here for me? Are they after the Raikage's brother Killer Bee too? Said Yugito before Sephiroth shook his head. I don't know if they are after him. I do know they are coming here for you. I am here to kill them. Nothing more, said Sephiroth, seeing the shinobi around him look to Yugito, who simply stared at the Namikaze, and the swordsman just stared back at her. How do I know you will just stop at killing them and not us? We all know what you did to Konoha. How you killed Jiraiya of the Sannin, the Fire Daimyo, the Sandaime Hokage, and Uchiha Sasuke in less than a year. Not to mention the shinobi after you were leaving that tried to stop you, said Yugito, seeing Sephiroth smile a somewhat sinister smile at her. They deserve to die. They were betrayers and deceivers all. Why wouldn't I kill them for their actions against me? Said Sephiroth, seeing Yugito had no response to that simple question. Do we have your word you won't attack Kumo or any of your shinobi while hunting them down? Said Yugito, seeing Sephiroth nod his head yes. Provided I'm not attacked by any shinobi while hunting for them, said Sephiroth, while Yugito nodded in agreement, since she didn't want to fight the Namikaze with his power far surpassing her own. Agreed, said Yugito before ordering the others to step away from him. Thank you. I sense they are nearby. Leave them to me. They were no doubt assigned to capture you and have the power to negate the Nibi inside your body, said Sephiroth, as he began walking towards the location of the 2 Akatsuki members, and the group of Kumo shinobi giving him a lot of space. Should we really let him go, Yugito-san? Said a Kumo shinobi of Chonin rank. He could have killed us at any time. Why provoke the Angel of Death's wrath and march to our deaths? Let him hunt for the 2 Akatsuki members and remove one less threat to Kumo. We need to get back to the village to report this to the Raikage. Look out for any more members of the organization, said Yugito simply, since the Raikage could set up measure to combat the Akatsuki. Sometime later, I hate this. Trucking through a fucking forest. Going all stealth-like for this Jinchuriki when we should go in there and spill all the fucking blood in the name of Jashin-sama, said Hidan, as he walked with his partner Kakuzu to Kumo, where the Nibi Jinchuriki was located, and the one they were assigned to capture. Shut up, Hidan. We have our orders. Unless you want to tell Pain-sama how you feel about this mission yourself? Said Kakuzu, knowing it would shut the man up. It won't be necessary to tell this Pain anything, as both of you will soon be dead, said Sephiroth, appearing in front of them with Masamune out. Holy shit. It's that Namikaze fuck responsible for killing so many Leaf Shinobi and the Fire Daimyo, said Hidan, seeing Sephiroth's blade shine in the sunlight. Crap. We don't have time for this. We came for the Nibi. Not him, said Kakuzu, while knowing the bounty on the man's head was massive and was so damn tempted to collect it right now. It wouldn't matter. Kyubi has been fully absorbed into me. He no longer exists, said Sephiroth, seeing the two members look at him with surprise. What? Oh man. Pain-sama is going to be pissed, said Kakuzu, knowing that the group was going to fall apart real fast when they hear how one of the key components needed for the statue was lost. Indeed he will be. I'll spare you his wrath by killing you both and telling him the bad news myself, said Sephiroth, as he rushed forward, and stabbed the money-hungry shinobi in the chest with his sword. Not bad. You got one of my hearts. I hope you don't mind I take yours as a brand new replacement, said Kakuzu while Sephiroth saw Hidan bring out his scythe. You assume I'm done in attempting to kill you just by stabbing one of your 5 hearts with my sword. Tempest Rage, said Sephiroth before sending lightning through his blade into Kakuzu, and enjoyed hearing the missing nin from Taki cry out in pain. Kakuzu, said Hidan, as he swung his weapon. Sephiroth, who turned slightly, angled his arm, and caught the weapon below the blade with his free hand. Wait your turn, Akatsuki member. Your death will come soon enough, said Sephiroth, as he kicked the Jashinist away while still looking at Kakuzu, and the man trying to free himself from the Namikaze's sword. He's attacking my hearts with this lightning attack, using the sword piercing my heart, thought Kakuzu, as he felt his remaining heart spasm in pain, and have heart attacks at the same time. It wouldn't be long before all of them failed and he died. Fucking heretic. Die in the name of Jashin, said Hidan, as he charged in again, and tried to spill some of Sephiroth's blood so he could perform the necessary ritual. Barrier, said Sephiroth in a smooth, barely audible voice, with the shield made of energy manifested before repelling the Jashinist away. Pain-sama will defeat you, said Kakuzu while falling to his knees. Really? And you have drawn that conclusion, how exactly? Said Sephiroth in a semi-curious tone. He's a god, said Kakuzu simply. Really? That's very interesting, because the thing is, I'm a god too, said Sephiroth, as he sliced through Kakuzu with the arc of lightning, cutting through the missing nin, and through a couple hundred trees in the process. You may have been able to kill Kakuzu, but have the blessing of Jashin-sama, and my god will not let me die, said Hidan, seeing Sephiroth looking in his direction with an amused expression. And I have the backing of Gaia, goddess and mother of the world itself. All of nature is hers to command, and has blessed me with that very same ability. All the elements bow to me as they would her. Just as you will bow to me before you die, said Sephiroth, seeing Hidan growl at him. Never. Die, you fucking heretic, said Hidan, who attempted to strike Sephiroth down with his scythe, but the Namikaze easily blocked each strike with his sword, and kicked the Jashinist away. Is this it? Is this all the power your god has given you? Pathetic, said Sephiroth, as he leapt away from Hidan, and hovered in the air with a smile on his face. Come down here and die, you fucker, said Hidan up at Sephiroth, who formed an orb of energy into his hand, and stared down at the Jashinist. I think it's time to test your god's blessing in keeping you alive. Let's see how his power fares against mine. Ultima Rasengan, said Sephiroth before he dove towards the ground with his arm out with the orb in hand, and upon impact with the ground created a massive explosion that shook the ground along with everything around the Namikaze for miles. Hidan didn't even get a chance to mentally pray to Jashin for help, as he was vaporized in an instant, and there was nothing left to keep the man alive. All around Sephiroth, a roaring inferno raged around him, consuming the trees, the rocks, and the very ground from his devastating attack responsible for causing the fire. Slowly, the Namikaze walked through the flames, unharmed, burned free, and decided to meet up with his 2 favorite women to see how they were doing in Taki. By Kami. Look at the destruction he caused, said a Kumo shinobi of Jounin rank, as he kneeling before a cliff's edge with Yugito, and seeing the damage Sephiroth caused. I see. Nibi is cowering in fear of him. Those 2 chakra signatures we sensed down there a moment ago are gone. Not surprising given the attack, said Yugito before she stood up and kept her senses on the Namikaze. Where is he headed now? Said the Kumo Jounin, knowing they would have to hustle to Kumo to report to the Raikage soon. He's heading west. Away from Kumo. He's sticking to his word, said Yugito while she sensed the other Kumo shinobi around her sigh with relief. Good. That guy scares the crap out of me, said Kumo Jounin while the others agreed with his sentiment. No argument there. Come on. Let's return to Kumo and report what happened. We took a big enough risk not doing that in the first place to see the Namikaze fight, said Yugito before she and the group took off. They had no intention of stopping for a second time. Thanks for listening, and remember, the disrespect is real. Goodbye.